adventure. Nothing's better to me than a journey down to the ocean floor or a close encounter with a dinosaur. Oh, I love adventure. We'll slip and slide with a zippity-zoom and go loop-de-loop in the moon, sailing into the sun. Hope you want to have fun. I love adventure. Hey everybody, it's me, Timmy, and welcome to the Adventures of Timmy the Tooth reunion. You're going to hear some great stories from the wonderful cast and crew who brought the show to life. Are you ready? Well then, here we go.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to this special, super special episode of Under the Puppet. My name is Grant Baciocco, and today I am so honored to be hosting this reunion of the amazingly talented people behind the show, The Adventures of Timmy the Tooth, which is celebrating its 25th anniversary this year. To start things off, I am honored to be joined by the creators of the show, the Cavity Goon, James Murray. Thank you for coming. The producer of the show, Dina Fabroni. Welcome. And Timmy the Tooth himself, Kevin Carlson. Welcome all to the show. Great to have you all here.
Biblets.
Thank you.
Before we get to the actual show, I would love to know how the three of you met each other.
Go ahead, Dina.
Want me to start that one?
Yeah.
Well, I met Kevin actually on a Muppet show, on the Muppet Tour, the Muppet Show Live tour.
Muppets on Tour.
Muppets on Tour. It was a full-body costume show. Kevin was the only one of maybe the only puppeteer there. He played the rats and things. And I met him when we were on tour. I think we were like 22 and 24 years old or something. And then he subsequently, I left the tour after the first year. He stayed on, and I joined an acting class. That's where I met James. And so by the time Kevin finished his second year on tour, I had introduced them, and off it went.
Yeah, the rest is history.
Yeah.
I was doing children's birthday parties, freelancing, singing telegrams, that whole thing. And then Dina and I got together, and we started our own children's entertainment company doing birthday parties and events it was called Kidding Around. And she introduced me to Kevin, and Kevin was like, you guys should do a puppet show. Something like that, right, Kev?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, Kevin brought the puppets into our little tiny show that we were doing, and they forced me into being a puppeteer.
Well, Kevin and I were doing birthday parties and private events with our Timmy the Tooth variety show. And then Dina was part of this theater company, and she got us into the Gypsy Playhouse in Burbank, which is no longer there. I think it's a Whole Foods now. And we did a big theater run. Got great reviews, celebrities were coming, and it started to take off. And I think somebody asked, a friend of yours, Kevin, asked you, why don't you have your own show?
Well, that was early on, yeah.
That early on?
Yeah, I was working on Pee-wee's Playhouse at the time, and I was helping a buddy with his Halloween diorama. It was hot gluing trees to a little thingy, and we were talking, and he says, hey, so you're a puppeteer? I said, yeah. And he goes, and you're working on Pee-wee's Playhouse? Well, how come you don't have your own show? And I said, good question. Why don't I have So I had an idea for to put a show together, and James and I had met, and we decided to have a tooth character because everybody has teeth. Think about that for a minute. Worldwide, everybody has a tooth. So we used Timmy the Tooth. He was a host of his own variety show, and his sidekick was Brush, which James actually built out of an old brush from Home Depot.
Yeah, I got a paint stick from Home Depot and a floor brush. Stuck a tongue and made a tongue out of felt and put googly eyes on him, and he was our first Brush.
And Brush is the character that's remained the same, right? He didn't really change. He never spoke. He actually did speak, but he spoke in the swishy kind of thing. And he was kind of like a dog, kind of. So the whole, anyways, it's funny how it developed from the variety show. because
Well, I would love to talk just a little bit about the variety show and what that was, because to me, one of the greatest things about this story, and I mentioned this to you earlier, Kevin, is that it started as this live show and then became a TV show, and that's kind of the dream for a creator is to do that thing. So let's talk about a little bit about the development of this variety show. What was it? What sort of things were in it?
You think they'd smile for me? Sure. I think they will. Okay, everybody, on the count of three, say pizza. 1, 2, 3, pizza! Oh, thanks, Mr. Camera. Wow, that was cool. Well, what do you think?
Well, Timmy, it's too early in the show to tell, but let me ask you a couple of questions, okay?
Okay.
Do you notice any pain or discomfort when I do this?
Hey. No, not really.
Okay. How about when I do this, Timmy? Whoa.
Hey. No, not really.
All right, Timmy. Sit yourself right up here.
Oh, right here?
Right there.
Like this?
Yeah. Are you comfy?
Mm-hmm.
Comfy, cozy?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you notice any pain or discomfort when I do this?
Well, we did not make very many puppets. That's not our forte. So we would just, whatever puppets we could get, from catalogs or from stores. And there
was a lot of duct tape and hot glue
that
was going on.
So, for example, we had a green little girl puppet. So we bastardized the Little Red Riding Hood story, but it was Little Green Riding Hood. And we had a lot of fun with it, kind of like, kind of in the vein of what the Muppets would do, in parodies and Sesame Street-ish kind of stuff. And then we had the New Socks on the Block, which were a pop, kid band. They were hot. Right?
Sock puppet.
Julia Giraffe's cooking show, where she was making a fruit smoothie and the avocado wanted to be in there, and she had to shoo him away. He said, no, that's you're in next week's show.
Guacamole's next week. That's grained in my head for some reason.
And then we had the cavity creep in there.
Yeah.
And it was set up. Go ahead, Dean.
No, he grew into the cavity goon, yeah.
He grew into the cavity goon. But it was a classic, where's the apple? If you see the cavity creep, call for Brush. So Brush was the hero of the show that eventually brushed him away.
Brush is an easy character to pass around. So, these guys came up, they were the lead performers, and then they would come up with a new character like the cavity creep, and they'd be like, oh, here, Dina, now you're Brush, right? So Brush is easy to pass around because you don't really have to duplicate the voice, you just brush. And so Brush actually got passed around quite a bit. Until he landed with Todd at the end in the series, but it was really fun. We had this little pop-up where it was literally like a little black TV screen that popped up. We could fold it down and take it with us. So we did the theater show as well as birthday parties, and then eventually worked in like real life characters with like Captain Clean and
yeah, we had a big stage. We built a big stage out of PVC. Kevin's wife Susan sewed it and put all the curtains and everything together. Kevin and I ran sound from the back, from inside our little puppet box.
It was great though. Every time the cavity creep would come up and you'd hear the entire like 99-seat house screaming, Brush, all these tiny little kids. And we were surprised because we were just working it on Saturdays, and then they were like, do you want to do Sundays too? And then our 3 months became 6 months. And I think at some point it was when Kevin was saying, we should bring this to television. And we were all like, yeah, okay. How do we do it?
We were breaking down the stage. I remember it very clearly. We were breaking down the stage and going, but that was a good audience. And then this is good. And everybody's happy. And it's like, we should do the next level. What's the next level? A video. Because video was hot at the time. So, we were able to get money from Dina's dad, who was a great meat guy, Fabroni Sausage in Hibbing, Minnesota, right? Shout out to Hibbing, home of Bob Dylan.
Yes.
And so Leo gave us a little money to put a pitch together and also pay some artists to do some drawings for us.
We did a video. You might actually have one of the pictures, Grant, because Timmy the Tooth in our theater variety show was just a tooth. He had no arms and legs. And One day, Kevin and I stuck some puppet arms and legs on him. After Kevin had the idea of like we should do a video and we should pitch this as a television show. Then we got Pat Brymer, rest in peace. He remade our Timmy the Tooth, and so we shot this presentation video where Timmy's pitching a show to a little kid executive, and we never used it.
Well, that's not exactly true. Well, I mean, mostly true. So it was just like this little insert stage. It actually turned out really cute. 7 minutes long. I was working at a company in Hollywood called PALA, and they would just place you in production jobs wherever they could to give you all this experience and build a resume. And I brought that tape to them. That's the only time we used it. I brought that tape to them.
Yeah, that's the only time.
And they were like, "You've got something here, but we're not going to use the tape." so we started restructuring the pitch.
How long did the process of pitching it take? Did it take a couple weeks or months or a year or
3 months?
3 months.
I think we did most of our pitching within 3 weeks. Like 3 weeks to a few months maybe at the most. I think we went from October to December, and then by then we were offered a deal. So it took us another 6 months to close that deal, of course, and work everything out. But we hit the ground running, and we had offers kind of like right away. We just took the best one. It was really actually amazing.
Yeah.
It's really amazing because we were these 3 kids. We were totally green in production, and we were doing birthday parties. And I was doing craft services and working at Universal Studios the week before, and then they just were like, "When can you deliver?" And we were like, "What? Yeah." And I think I said something like August, and they were like, "Perfect." And we didn't even know what that meant, actually. It was like crazy.
Kevin, you mentioned that Universal just really jumped on it. Like they were just like,
right,
we want this.
We met with the senior vice president of the home video department. Her name was Susie Peterson, and she got it right away. And I think she was having success with Land Before Time, the video series, the cartoon video series. They were going into additional seasons and whatnot. So this was her follow-up, and she saw it and she got it from us right away. And the next couple of meetings we had were stacked with all the executives from the theme park, television, home video, international merchandising, all the creative affairs and the business, the lawyers and everything. They were all there. And that was a great meeting. It was at the Black Towers in the Sheraton in Universal. And we were all waiting in the lobby, and we had pitched the show several times, and this was it. This was the big one. We knew we had to get this one, but we were pretty confident. But we knew there were, we were held in the lobby area before the big 2 doors open up, and there's this whole span of executives and muckety mucks, and so we're just about to go in, right? And they go, "We're ready for you now." And Dina says, "Oh, I think I'm going to be sick." And it's like, oh, great. We're going to lose the deal because she's feeling sick, But you know what?
I feel that way before a performance, I always get
it's the butterflies. And we nailed it. And I think for us, there was a great satisfaction knowing, the main marketing guy, his name was Andrew Carey. And, everyone, it was this big horseshoe conference table. And Andrew Carey stood up. I think we can do this. I got some ideas, and here we're going to do it. It was like, oh, they're seeing it. They see it. And it was very satisfying.
Yeah, it was very satisfying after all that time. They just really got it. And this was our second meeting.
Yeah.
And we had been pitching it around town. So we were dialed in pretty much what we were doing. Kevin was operating the Timmy the Tooth. We had pre-recorded ukulele music that he did. He sang live. We had big posters of artwork that Drew Massey did for us. We had a sales Bible with all the show ideas and additional artwork. And so we told the stories, sang the songs, and then introduced all the other characters in there, and we did their voices live.
James did all the voices of the other characters. So we kind of set the standard for what the characters would be like in the series. Because Johnny Paste would talk like this, right? There's Johnny.
This is Drew's original Johnny.
Yeah.
This is actually the original Bible. And I actually even have the fax that confirms our meeting with those executives. It's really cool. But yeah, so this changed a lot, but these were the original drawings. You can't really, well, we'll talk about that later about how you get it off the page and into a puppet, because this doesn't really, how do you make that a puppet? And Michael Earl, God bless him, he did work with that. He worked with that. That's crazy.
Yeah, he was Miss Flossie, and he was hysterical. It was so much fun to watch.
Yeah.
Our puppet builder was Bob Fapiano and Lisa Buckley, the Fapiano puppets. And Bob was great. He got it too. And he knew exactly what to do. And he took these drawings and turned them into the 3D puppets. And they were awesome. I think they had a good time. They had to build like 28 puppets. I know Christine Papalexis had to come in and help and build even more, I think.
Right.
So we were very fortunate to hook up with Bob and Lisa because they knew what to do, and they already had some success with Alf because they actually built Alf. And so they were the real deal.
I think also having people like Bob on board and people that already had success, that really that also moved us along with the studio because we were actually really green. We were performers. We weren't builders. We weren't anything else. We weren't
writers. And that's, Phil Barron was our head writer, story editor, and he had much more experience than us. So he became part of, like, here's our team. Here's how we're going to do it. Here's the people we're going to bring in.
Yeah, because he did Teddy, didn't he?
Teddy Ruxpin.
Yeah, he did Teddy.
Yeah.
So align yourself with lovely, talented people. That's the trick.
Well, that's Kevin. When I interviewed you before, you said that you were new to production, but you had enough experience to know, like, we're going to get the right people to do this. We're going to get the right people to work on this.
Right. Well, fortunately, you tap into your people that who can deliver the goods. And what was really good too is that we had no experience in getting a set decorator or set designer or production designer. So we spent a couple days interviewing people, and it was really new for us. But we connected with the people that ended up doing it, and they were the right people because it came out great. We were very fortunate to have the people we had.
I wanted to ask one question about the puppets because what's really unique about the puppets, I think, they're amazing, is the mech eyes. Because a lot of times, you just have sort of, for lack of a better term, Muppet style puppet, and the eyes don't necessarily move, but your characters did. So what was the decision to put that in there, and what do you think that added to the show?
Can I just say one thing before I let the guys have that? That was a selling point. That was us telling the studio, we got this high-tech thing, we're going to animatronic eyes, we're going to have somebody out there running eyes, somebody doing voice, and and we have access to all these great puppeteers and stuff like that. So that was actually a selling point, and we made that decision originally so that they would think we knew more than we did. So we could sell the show, actually. Remember that came up in one of our meetings. And I think one of our producers kind of insisted on that. So
part of the joy too is that after almost 30 years, 25, whatever, Timmy's eyes still work. I mean, he can still. Can you see?
Oh, they're blinking right there.
Yeah. Can you hear them too? They're a little loud. It's like you can hear his thoughts.
And the eyes, and we have the eyes able to look up, down, left, right.
Yeah.
And then
what was
and then the rest of most of the other characters, like the Gingivitis Gang, they had cable eyes. They just had a blink.
But it's amazing how effective just a blink is. Just a simple blink is very effective. What was Sidney Cyclops' line as he burst through the doors in Big Mouth Gulch?
Oh my God, I saw that the other day. He bursts through the saloon doors. Like, Goody the Kid is coming. Goody the Kid is coming. I seen him with my own eye.
I think
he faints and falls out of frame.
We laughed harder than anyone else, I think.
That was Bruce.
Yeah.
He's so fun.
And action.
Oh no! Sheriff, the Linus gang is coming to town!
Kevin and James, you talked about writing a little bit, that you wrote the shows, and you had never written a series before. What did you learn about writing for puppets and writing for this show by being on the writing staff?
Oh, well, Phil Barron was our story editor, so he took our little springboard ideas and ran with them for the most part. But what I love about Phil was so generous to both James and I when we were in the writing team. When we were together writing, it was really harmonious how we got through things that we did.
Well, we learned the 3-act structure.
Yeah,
we learned that. He taught us that.
Put your main character in the tree, then throw rocks at him, and then get him down from the tree, and everybody hugs and kisses at the end.
Exactly, and Phil was a huge asset. And also, I do want to mention Susie Peterson again. She was Senior VP of Creative Affairs for the Home Video Department, is what her title was, I think. But she was a huge asset to us. She was like, those scripts would come to me, I'd read them and go, I'm not sure what this means. They'd do corrections, maybe they would just fight with me, whatever. I'd send them on to Susie, and she would send them back with the best notes ever, and so clean and not critical. And I learned the word pedantic from her. I do say that. No, she did. She was amazing asset in the writing as well, because she would send that back and you guys were like, right. And then you would take it and off it would go again and those scripts would get polished. She was great.
She saw it and she wanted us to succeed. I mean, she really, got behind us and, lifted us up. It was great. She was really super.
And again, Phil Barron too. I felt so comfortable and confident having him there. It was like Mr. Wisdom. It was like having your old mentor there, because Phil wasn't old; he was young as well. But yeah, he made me feel really comfortable and confident being there.
It was Phil's idea too to have a song in every act. So we had 3 original songs in every show, which was quite ambitious. And then fortunately we had the right music producer, Joyce and Beasy. She knocked it out of the park every time. She was awesome. And she's no longer with us too. She passed last year in 2019. And, but she was phenomenal. She even took, like, James and Phil and I wrote a few songs and she produced them and they sounded so great. We were, so thrilled. We'd hear them and go, yes, this is good.
But that's the key, isn't it? Those are the people that affected us most. And they were so generous. That's the key, I think, to working in this business is generosity in your network. And then the people we chose were so generous. And not just with us, but with their time on a budget, and they put in way above and above and above and above than what they signed for. So, yeah. And Joyce was like that. She was super generous and really easy. Mm-hmm.
Welcome to the Golden Cafe, a little place down by the sea. Our next old man, they come and hear me play everything from A to Z.
We got our dream cast. And, we had friends who were great puppeteers that we couldn't put on the show. But we had our dream cast. I remember just like going, I hope Allan wants to be on this show, or I hope so-and-so wants to be on this show. And then we got them. We got them all. I think we didn't get Drew because he was on something at the time. But we got him as an artist. So whatever, but we did. We got like such a good cast of characters. Oh, my God. We're so lucky. All of them.
I was going to ask, were there auditions for the show, or was it just like, oh, there were? Yeah.
We preferred it to be by invitation, but we did see a lot of people that we didn't really know their work. So we gave them a chance to see it or be part of it. But we were pretty fortunate that, Dina, you're so right. I mean, our cast was awesome. Everybody was, and we had fun. That's the main thing. I think we all had fun.
Because everybody on that set, every actor was generous too. I was the least experienced puppeteer. And when I was in the pit, they were just like, I was you guys, you know, it was really cool. And I think when we did audition, I remember bringing people in and knowing right away, or even kind of asking people to read for roles. We kind of had an idea what we thought we wanted them to do. And then it started narrowing down as the audition process went on. But yeah, we were lucky.
We could have stayed in our nice cozy little house in Flossmoor Valley and taken our nap, but no, we came here to stop a terrible Kalama-Wamma-Bamity from happening.
Kalama-Wamma.
And now we and the tribe of Chief Bubbles needs your help.
But she doesn't even like us.
Oh, that's not true. She thinks you're special.
Huh? She does? Really?
Well, I would also love to ask about the amazing sets on the show, because the sets were just so beautiful and practical. And I don't know necessarily, the same style of show working today would necessarily get these big, beautiful sets like you guys. Can you guys talk a little bit about the design process and just about those amazing sets?
You want to tackle it, James?
Well, that was Naomi's Slaki, right?
Right.
Yeah, and she was the production designer. And like Kevin was talking about earlier, we didn't know anybody in that area. So when we were viewing people's art and we saw her and we all clicked, we saw some of her samples and we said, okay. And the work that she started to, they would do some preliminary artwork, right? They had the scripts. We pitched them. We told them like what's going on, and it's a live action cartoon that these characters are in. And she got it, and the artwork that was coming through was amazing. And so we have these huge 50-foot drops for the background, and then everything was pretty much sculpted out of foam. Almost everything was made for the show. The airplane, Timmy's house.
The couch.
It wasn't something you just go, yeah, we need a house.
All the props were hand custom made. It was really fun.
It was the first day on set when we were like, let's see those puppets inside that. Let's see what Timmy looks like in his house and stuff. And people are going by and scraping the foam. And that's when I was like,
the styrofoam.
Oh, no, we just did this whole
just created a sound monster.
And we're not going to shoot because if anyone touches the set, it's going to go like a chalkboard.
Chalkboard.
Kind of being really careful about that. But she knew she was hooked up with this guy Ray Naylor, who is also he actually passed away before our show released, and he was her scenic painter. So she's the one that actually suggested, how about we do these huge scenic drops, and then we'll cut and carve everything else. And I think it was her suggestion, that part of it.
And then when we would go visit them when they were painting the drops, and she had to rent a big warehouse in North Hollywood. And the big drop is all laid out, and they're hand painting the whole thing. And it was just amazing because all the artwork was phenomenal. We just thought it was great. Even Timmy in space.
Yeah, no rentals for drops.
Yeah.
Everything was painted for this show.
James, I would love to ask you, you directed a couple episodes, right?
I directed 3 episodes. I had never directed before. And so Rick Locke, who was the director of the rest of the episodes, he was my mentor. And I just really wanted to try directing. And I was frightened. I was really, really scared. But I felt like I learned a lot. And at one point, I was playing Leo from the Gingivitis Gang in Moeller Island, and I was directing and I was performing at the same time. And I had never done that before. And that's when I said, Allan, you're Leo now. Yeah. I couldn't do both at the same time. Later on in years, I was able to do that. But I just didn't have the capacity at that point. It was just, we were doing so much. This was our first show, and here we are. I can't handle it. I thought I could, and I couldn't. But I was really blessed to have, again, a wonderful support. Everybody knew it was my first time. They were supporting me and encouraged me. So I had a lot of support, which is very helpful.
I was looking back at some backstage video, and it's just amazing how the crew, and we had a great crew too, and everybody was on board. And you can sense the excitement. Everybody was giving 100% plus. I mean, it was really good. So everybody supported James, and Rick, our director too. He had a really good thing with the crew too. I mean, they all respected him. So I just found some great footage, and it's fun to go back and look at it.
Well, now, Sheriff, do we have to? Oh, all right. Group hug. Ah!
I did want to ask that your deal was that these were going to go direct to video, right? It wasn't necessary, like the syndication as well, but the whole point was because the video in the 80s was so huge, the home video, that these were going to go direct to video, right?
Yeah, it was a direct to video deal, and we were on the heels of Barney. Barney was just exploding, and so they were, what's the next Barney?
Right.
And that's how Universal looked at it.
Right. And Universal, you know, and everywhere we pitched, they were trying to figure out how Barney did what they did without a big studio or a big sponsor, and how could they be selling so many videos and, you know, cutting into their business, whatever. So they were looking for a video project, and we came right in at the right time.
And that's what we pitched it as, a direct-to-home video.
And that's actually was a really unprecedented deal, because at the time when we started producing those, or when we got our deal, it was very, you normally had to have some sort of presence already on Nickelodeon or Nick Jr., or you did a movie, and now we're going to bring it to home video. So they were just getting started on direct-to-home video movies at the time. But they'd never done like a series, especially for preschoolers, without that type of television exposure. So it was really an unprecedented deal. And, you know, I can't believe they took that chance on us.
Yeah. Do you want us to, are we going to start the scene with this here? We don't want it lifted up onto the counter?
Yeah, what he's putting the rest of the picture down below. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Clean up aisle 4.
Well, and there was also sort of merchandise and promotional things that went along with it. Kevin, you showed me earlier Rice Krispie box that Timmy the Tooth was on. Yep, there it is.
Yeah, this was a huge part of our launch, and they had these character cards. So there's Annette and Emmett, the mailbox, and Miss Flossie, and so we were on every Rice Krispies box in America, or probably international too.
I think we had 10 boxes.
Yeah. And then these little character cards, on the back of the cards, there's little blurbs and stuff that we didn't write. The marketing department wrote. And so some of it was like,
I know, some of them were like, Timmy comes from a dinosaur and Mr. Wisdom found him in a tar pit. Like, what?
I wrote this.
I wrote all this stuff.
I think Wikipedia wrote it.
Yeah, I think so.
Probably. Well, and you also had merchandise too. You know, I saw a little sort of bag with Timmy the Tooth and stuff on it, and there were other things as well. What is it like to create this show and then walk into the supermarket and see your creations on the Rice Krispie boxes?
No, that was thrilling, and it was fun to watch. You know, just kind of be a bystander and watch parents and kids like go, "Oh, look, what is this?" You know, so it's kind of fun. And same with Blockbuster Video too, because Blockbuster Video was big in renting and purchasing the videos to rent, and they put big displays in every Blockbuster, and so I remember going there and listening to people talk about it.
And there was the Timmy doll was through Blockbuster, right?
Right.
On the plush toy makers, that we had a deal with them, and so they made our plush toys as well. Say that part of our deal with Universal, the part of the deal that included the merchandising and the distribution and advertising and stuff, that was almost 4 times what they promised us, what we made the 10 episodes for. They promised us 4 times that in distribution, marketing, and merchandising and stuff like that. So they really put behind the merchandising and the marketing. They really put in that.
Well, and we were, I think, mixed when we found out they had a deal with to be on Rice Krispies. Like
at first, yeah.
At first we were, and then it was like, okay, we're going to be in every store in America, because they were actually looking at Oral-B and Crest, and we kind of poo-pooed that. It's like, we don't want to be a dental show. We want this to be an adventure show that just happens to be a tooth and a brush. It's a boy and his dog, basically. And so they kind of took our lead on that, and then hooked up with Kellogg's Rice Krispies.
That was breakfast cereal. How much more dental can you get? Or good for kids.
I know.
And one of the
right hand in hand.
One of the features was that Universal gave away one of the episodes. Big Mouth Gulch was available if you sent in a couple of box tops, and they would send you the videotape. So I mean, that was huge. We gave away Big Mouth Gulch.
The soft box. That's what you get.
The soft box, right? Not the clamshell.
Not the clamshell. The soft box.
Yeah, the clam,
Well, I know there's a lot of fans of the show out there. There's fans, we talked about clips on YouTube, and fans who are kind of making their own videos about Timmy the Tooth and the history of the show and things. And for fans who kind of haven't seen full episodes and stuff, I hear that we have some very good news about where they might be able to see Timmy the Tooth.
Kevin?
Well,
Kevin's the one that uncovered it.
Yeah, found out that the Peacock Network, which is going to be launching July 31st, it's the NBC Universal streaming platform, and I guess you can get it through Xfinity. I don't know exactly how you get it, but they do.
I think it's whatever your cable provider is. There's also, you can get the Peacock app, and then you can stream NBC Universal products.
All 10 episodes are going to be available for streaming in July. So we're thrilled. It's going to have a little resurgence. And the nice thing is that, the kids that grew up with Timmy the Tooth are having kids now. So it's a way to share their childhood with their children. So it's kind of fun.
We only did 10 episodes. We didn't do the classic 13 or 26. And I don't recall what the reasoning behind that was, but cut to now in the streaming world where there's 6 episodes, there's 8 episodes, there's 10 episodes. This whole 13, 26 episode has kind of gone away. And I think it fits right into the streaming world just to have 10 episodes after all this time.
I think what happened in that, though, James, is when we were preparing our pitch, and the three of us were like going, let's do 3. Let's get 3 episodes. And we thought that was so great. And then our other producer was like, no, 10. And we're like, whoa, we're not going to do that. And she was like, no, 10, And we had another producer on that was always raising our bar, Jillian Sawson. And she was always raising our bar, for better or worse. But she's a lot of the reason why we got 10 episodes.
Yeah.
Well, as we're wrapping up here, I would love to get your thoughts. We kind of talked about it, but I would love to just hear your thoughts on, the folks who are no longer with us and who couldn't come to this reunion today because of that. But we mentioned Joyce, and we talked about Joyce and her work and the music, but also Michael Earl and Pat Breimer, who worked on the puppetry ends of things, and unfortunately are no longer with us.
And let me start with Pat. Pat was our wrangler who just was on top of everything. He was so good. And I would say, Pat, I need something. He'd already have it fixing for me or whatever. He was so awesome. And he was really instrumental early on when we first started doing puppet shows. He was very helpful to us, generous. He was very generous to us.
Say with Michael and Pat, they were 2 people at the top of their game. And they were so gracious and helpful. Couldn't have done it without them. Michael Earl was a wonderful puppeteer. He also choreographed all our little dances and things like that. And he did Timmy's eyes. It was Michael and Kevin and doing Timmy. And it worked. And what they brought to it was immeasurable, and just really sad they're gone, but thankful that we got to experience their talent and gift on our show.
It's very emotional for me. I don't even want to really talk about it because it's super emotional. And
yeah, we also lost Ray Naylor, who was Naomi's right-hand artist. And Ray, the stuff that he produced for us, created, like I was looking at the backstage footage, and that Molar Island drop, you want that in your home because it's like this beautiful jungle scene. It was just lovely. And the attention to detail was, superb.
They sell things like that now that you could just stick on a wall.
Yeah.
It covers your whole wall and you're like at a beach, or somewhere. But I just, if we have time for 1 minute, I just want to acknowledge another artist that was on the show that we didn't acknowledge. There was a point where we were going along and I'm like, well, who's doing wardrobe? And the guys were like, wardrobe? And I'm like, yeah, we need someone to do costumes. You remember that, Kevin? And you're like, what?
Oh, yeah.
So we hired this guy late, Jason Court. And that guy came in and he sewed, he and his team, that's all I wanted. I want to make sure we mention Jason because he was hugely contributing to the success of those characters and the costumes that actually worked for puppets.
Right.
I want to make sure we mention Jason because he was such a great artist. He's right up there with Joyce. He's right up there with Ray and with Naomi and you guys. So there.
Well, as we wrap up this segment, I would love to know from each of you, here we are 25 years later. There's still fans out there. There, as Kevin mentioned, fans who are now having kids and showing the shows to their kids. Why do you think this show has lasted 25 years? What is it about the adventures of Timmy the Tooth that makes everybody love it?
I think it's Timmy. I love Timmy. Timmy was the way Kevin portrayed him, and he's just a sweet boy, innocent, with a huge heart, and his brush. And it's, as much as it's a classic a boy and his dog, it's a tooth in his brush.
I do think it's charming. I think there's a lot of charm to the show. I was talking to my wife about it, and she was saying it was a charming show. I mean, as a parent, with toddlers, she enjoyed watching it too, and I think that's part of the success of it as well. And the friendship that we have with all the people that worked on it still. I mean, we're still friends. I mean, everybody's like, and like I was saying in the backstage video, watching people's faces and everybody's happy. It was a good group of people. It was made with a lot of love,
I think it was really innocent, and it was gentle. We made an agreement when we started this thing, and the way we pitched it was there would never be violence or reference to violence. There was never any weapons on the puppets. There was none of that. And it was hard to write when you're like, oh my God, how do we write if there's not like something bad going to happen? So it had to be like bullying, or maybe you don't fit in, or you can't swim, or that type of thing. But, the slogan that's on all the videos is Timmy the Tooth, where imagination is your passport to adventure. And that's one of the things that people that love this show when they were kids say, there was just so adventurous. I used to love to go on the adventures. So I think that's part of its endurance. But yeah.
Well, we're so lucky now to be joined by some of the amazingly talented people behind the show, The Adventures of Timmy the Tooth. And we'll go around here. We have Todd Mattox, who played Brush. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
We have Cheryl Blaylock, who was Bubbles Gum. We have Allan Trautman, who was Johnny Paste, and several other characters as well. And I know that many of you played many different characters. I'm kind of going off the main credit here. Greg Ballora, who was Emmett.
Yes, hello.
There's Greg. Christine Papalexis as Annette.
Yay!
Phil Barron as Mr. Wisdom, but also the head writer on the show and the story editor.
Woo.
And we're honored to be joined by the director of several episodes as well, Rick Locke. Thank you, Rick, for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Bruce Lanoil as Sidney Cyclops. There you go, with the eye right in the forehead.
And
Let's start with the audition process. What was the audition process for those folks who auditioned for the show? Todd, do you want to start with that? Do you want to talk about your audition process?
It was basically how much you had. It turned out whatever you had in your pocket. I'm not remembering. I remember coming in a lot. But when I first started, I wasn't brush. I believe the concept of brush was he was going to be traded off and passed around, and then I think James was going to do all the sounds in post. And then as things developed, it just worked out that it made more sense for one person to do it, and then I kind of became brush. So, the auditions were the same old thing. You do a lot of push-ups, see how long you could squat, that type of thing, puppet stuff.
Yeah.
How about you, Cheryl? Do you have thoughts on auditioning?
I don't remember auditioning. I don't remember. Oh, what happened?
I don't even remember doing the auditions.
In fact, who are you people?
Dramatic. The whole thing was dramatic.
It was an audition process, right?
Yeah, we actually did audition people, but a lot of you folks, we kind of knew we wanted on the show. So we kind of bypassed the auditions for some of you because we already knew we wanted you. And we got you.
I remember your audition, Cheryl, because I didn't know you yet. And I saw you work, and I was just like, that's it. I love her. I loved you.
Where'd she come from? Okay.
Wow, you were
well, you know what I think it is? A lot of times you do so many auditions over the years that you do them and then forget them as a sort of a self-protective thing. So I remember the horrible ones, of course. This must have been great. This must have gone really well because I just okay, next. Wow. Yeah.
Bubbles' voice. And when that voice came out, I just knew. I was like, oh, forget it. That's it.
Oh, we found Bubbles. Oh, yay.
I just remember showing up on the set on the first day, and you shoved Johnny Paste on my arm and said, he talks like this. And Rick said, rolling. And we were off to the races.
I think I had to ask to audition for Miss Sweetie. I don't think you guys had any idea that I had that in me. And I just saw the part and I wanted to try it. And it just, you allowed me to do it, which I'm so grateful for. It was, I don't know if it's even PC today to even, audition for a part like that. But I was grateful to do it. That's for sure.
Well, Sweetie was a great character.
No,
and
Bruce, absolutely.
I remember having Bruce. You came into the office, and we had the drawings lined out, and you kind of went through them and looked at them, and then you kind of gravitated towards Sweetie. And I think we had,
look at her; she's gorgeous. You guys,
I know that's the stunt Sweetie.
The nails.
She's the one that flew through the air.
Woo! Thanks, everyone.
Originally, I think we were thinking that it was going to be a woman who played that character.
Well, I think that's probably prudent.
But
yes,
but your comedic timing and what you brought to the character was just too funny. We had to have you.
Well, and Sweetie being the sidekick for the Cavity Goon, there kind of had to be this interplay, and I had always seen the Goon kind of modeled him after Jack Lemmon from The Great Race.
Oh boy, one of my favorites
kind of
ever.
A candy version of Peter Falk, right?
Oh wow! You should have told me that. Hey boys, push the button. Yeah, of course. Yeah. My God, that's amazing. Dina, when you were talking about casting, were you on board with me doing it, or were you had trepidations? Because, talking about Karen.
It's always one of those things where people are doing great, and you could pick 10 people for that role, and then somebody's voice comes through, and you just know. You just know that's it. Great.
Yeah. Honored to be among you all. Absolutely. It was a great cast.
And then me.
Has anyone noticed that I've started to look like Mr. Wisdom?
Mr. Wisdom.
No, not really.
It was a little different with me. He actually auditioned to be me. Got the part.
Great. I love Mr. Wisdom.
Great character.
Greg,
you wanted to say something.
I'm pretty sure that during the audition, you guys decided that you didn't want me for anything. And you got really close to the show, and then suddenly went, "Oh crud, we need somebody else to help with these background characters." Ballora, he'll do. He made the mailbox. Sure, let's get him to flap that thing. And I got to come on board, which was pretty fabulous. So.
Exactly like that. It was more just like we had all the roles covered, and we couldn't place people. There are still some of our place that we wish we could have. But
sure, Dina.
We're constantly, and then we became union, and so there's this constant pressure from the executive producer and pressure from the studio about money. So we just trimmed, and we only took the primary characters until we realized, oh my gosh, we actually need somebody. We need other people. We need another person, like on board, not just a few people to stand in for the introduction that we shot. But we actually need someone on board like every show. And so we grabbed you, Greg. Because
someone with a wide range.
That's right. Someone with very wide.
That's right.
And you're tall. That always helps.
Look at that arm spread.
They're every man.
Hired for my wingspan.
I'm a flamenco dancer.
Pan down and see his cup. Loving that.
Chinese spare change, 22 cents. Will give me some chicken McNuggets.
Well, and Christine, what was your introduction here to the Adventures of Timmy Tooth? How did you come on board?
I have no recollection of auditioning at all. I'm thinking
I'm not the only one.
Yeah, no, I'm like, wait, what? Wow, what did I do? I have no idea. But I was actually around because I was helping build the puppets. I was working with Bob Fapiano, and building the bodies, and he sculpted all the heads. And then I also made some of the secondary characters. So I was sort of in, the project already. And it was such an honor to be, cast as one of the characters. It was thrilling. So, but I don't remember the audition, but I'm sure it was fabulous. So apparently.
Christine, do you remember in Big Mouth Gulch where you got to sing your song and you had the big boa?
Yeah.
I just saw that the other day. It was a great episode.
It was funny because I was thinking about that. I watched it, actually. It's on YouTube. So I was like, oh my God, look at that. And Michael Earl, I remember, helped me choreograph it. So it was really an honor also to just work with him, because I was so nervous. It was like, oh, it's my big solo. So it was great to have him there supporting and going, well, you should do this. And I was like, I want to lay on the piano. I was like, yeah, we'll make that work, so it
nice.
It was really fun.
It was beautiful. It was one of those impossible shots. And that for me as a director was one of the most fun things, because these guys are all so good that we did impossible shots every week. There's things you can't do with the puppet because there's this whole human that sticks out the bottom. and they always pulled it off. We did a shot, it was an overhead shot on a checkerboard, and they're playing check. You can't go overhead on puppets. We did. And they figured it out. It was just, it was fun every day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Always new, always challenging.
Yeah, and Mark Hunter he was the jib op for the most part.
Absolutely.
And I remember he goes, oh, we got to do this, because it was like a breakfast scene, and there's orange juice and a cereal, and he kind of came up from Timmy and went really high and then came down right on top of the cereal bowl. And I remember watching it on the monitor thinking, oh, this is good.
I remember thinking, you can't do that.
Yeah.
But unfortunately for you guys, then I'd go home and find another shot that you can't do, and we'd come in the next day and do it.
We made our days, though, boy. We packed it in, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. It was huge fun.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go.
How you doing?
Good. Christine.
Yeah.
Okay, folks, go. Quiet, please. 3, 2. What's in there? Oh!
I was just thinking of the set, the whole world that was created, and the set designers came up with all that lush greenery and those layers that went really deep. It was a class act, this production. Yeah.
Okay.
Rick, had you worked with puppets before? Had you directed puppets before?
Yeah. I've done a number. I was working with Sid and Marty Croft, and so we did puppets, we did human characters, and all in all, I've probably done 15 puppet shows.
Oh man, what was your first one, Rick?
Land of the Lost.
Oh boy.
Yeah. But then Follies, we did
DC Follies
pilot and 44 episodes. I mean, you just cranked them out.
Toby Terrier.
Toby, oh my goodness,
Toby
yes!
Terrier. Oh my gosh,
that was huge. And we did with Toby Terrier, we did 500 interstitials for Fox in like 2 weeks.
Wow.
So Rick was another way we sold the show. We kept putting ourselves with people who had a lot of experience in what we were doing, and that were willing to mentor us, like with James learning to direct and things like that. So Rick's another reason why we sold this show, attaching his name to it and attaching other people's names, Bob Fapiano and other people that had a lot of experience. And that's partly why they gave us so much creative freedom, really. It's because of the experience of the team.
Yeah, what was that other guy's name? Phil
Barron?
That
guy.
Phil Barron, yeah.
Phil Barron.
Oh, Barron?
Yeah, Phil, we exploited you like crazy in those pitches, big time.
Well, Phil was very instrumental in helping us, because James and I didn't have any writing credits, really. And so we said, hey, Phil, can we put your name on our Bible, our sales Bible? Are you okay with that? Sure. And then you were stuck with us.
It was some of the most fun I've ever had. Months of just kind of sitting in James and Dina's backyard there and coming up with ideas and just laughing. And whatever was funny went in the script.
And I distinctly remember one time you were writing at home and James and I were doing something, and you called me and said, Kevin, I need Timmy to say an exclamation of some kind. You got anything in mind? And I said, Jiminy Biblets, because I got that from Todd, actually.
Really?
Thank you, Todd. And I remember Phil, you said, thank you, and hung up.
Where does that come from, Todd?
Yeah, Todd.
We used to make up these fake language terms. A friend of mine growing up, so we say like shiminy biblets and criminy cram, and lordy loo. And so we just had all these things we said as kids. And when it came up, and Timmy said, "Well, what my Timothy said?" I said, "Shiminy biblets," and I think he tweaked it to what was it? No, it was criminy biblets. Is what I said. You changed it to shiminy biblets.
Changed it to Jiminy.
That's how languages form all over the world.
A boy and his brush.
Well, Todd, let me ask you about Brush really quick, who didn't speak in words, just spoke in this brushing bristle language.
Uh-huh.
Was that a little freeing to not have to memorize specific lines, or did you work out, when he says this, it means this?
Well, first of all, that was absolutely the favorite character I ever played. It was just such a fun. I mean, the way it was written, his attitude, his spirit was wonderful. The puppet was a dreamboat. I mean, it could open its mouth, it could blink its eyes, it could raise its eyebrows, and it could tilt his head, and all with these little levers. And it could catch his tongue if you did it right, And it just was a fantastic puppet that just came to life. And I think it was early a rehearsal or something when it came around that he was that I was going to get to work him. And I went home and I watched all the Harpo marks I had. Just watched tons of Harpo. And also, then the secret, don't tell anybody, is Ben Stiller. If you ever watch Ben Stiller when other people are talking, he's hysterical. So not when he's talking, but when other people are talking, he's doing all this stuff, looking around. making these faces. Anyway, so Harpo and Ben Stiller was to practice. And then originally, I think he was supposed to go like, that's all he did. But then Bubbles came in, I went, and so he started, he liked Bubbles.
Bubbles like him too.
Phil, did we actually write dialogue? I think, didn't we actually write dialogue for Brush Brush?
We did, like swish.
We actually
swish,
had
swish,
lines.
Swish, yeah. There was
Swish,
a certain
swish.
there was a certain rhythm to it. And of course, Todd improved on it amazingly.
Or ignored it.
So it wasn't Timmy, Bubbles is on the phone. It was swish, 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 swish.
We wrote the intent, though. We wrote the intent of what he was trying to say, because only Timmy can understand him. So we kind of had to know what he was saying.
Now, wasn't there one episode where someone was interpreting for him and was saying 3 swishes and a swoosh? Making this up?
Timmy was.
It was the parents of Munfred.
That's it.
Yeah, they were interpreting him. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Sort of like Brush Morse code.
Yeah.
That's right.
One of those characters you lose yourself into. You're watching the monitor, you're not there until it hurts a whole lot. Then you come back. No, you're watching the monitor and off you go. And the hardest thing, I think, would be the height difference between Kevin and I. So, when I was running back and forth in the background, you're all squatting down. I can't do that anymore.
Well, Christine, I wanted to ask you, because I saw some behind-the-scenes photos that I know that you are very adept at using marionettes, and you got to do a little marionette work on this show as well.
Oh yeah, I made the two marionettes with Bob. He sculpted the faces, and I built the rest of it. And then Dina and I did that. We actually puppeteered Nikki and Irene, the two of them, dancing in their little place outside in their little window box. So.
Did we do the voices? No.
Yeah.
Yes, you and Cheryl did the voices, Dean.
Voices, and then you and Michael did the
marionetting.
Oh, is that happen? Okay.
Nice.
Yeah. It was really fun to have marionettes, as part of the world. Yeah, and then Greg and I built the mailbox that you were just mentioning. I don't remember. Emmett, was that who that was? Yeah.
Emmett,
yeah. And again, Bob sculpted the face, but Greg had to figure out how to make it open. Like, how would you make that mechanical thing so that it would have some sort of a hinge mechanism that would open, and then you'd see inside and you wouldn't see any mechanism at all. That was very impressed with Greg Ballora. That was a really nice,
way to go,
nice
Greg.
puppet. Well done, Greg.
No idea how I did it.
Is this a Fabiano? Did he create this character?
Yep.
Sonny?
How
you doing?
Is that Alan's character?
That was Alan's character.
I definitely remember Sonny saying, "Shine."
Yeah.
Glow.
Shine. Beam. Glow.
Exactly. Thank you, pal.
Well, Alan, I will ask you this as the puppeteer of Johnny Paste, and I mean, you did several other characters, and it seemed that all of these puppets seemed to be a little bit heavier than sort of your standard, I guess, Muppet style puppet. Was Johnny Paste hard to wrangle?
Not really. I mean, he had a long body, but it wasn't all that heavy, I don't think. I think it was pretty manageable puppet. But, you just had to be careful, because with a body that long, when you get into weird positions, the body can start, your elbow starts sticking out in weird places on his body, which is not good. But fortunately, I have long arms, so it was typecasting in a way.
You got that going for you.
Yeah, you were great at that character, Ellen. You took to it like that, and everybody went, fully blown
that was
character.
A fun character. I was like totally just sort of releasing my id on that one.
Your inner toothpaste.
Yeah.
He was very authoritative, though, wasn't he?
Oh, yeah. Well, he was a know-it-all. I don't know how much he actually knew, but
he thought he knew
certainly
a lot.
Had the confidence of a person who knew everything.
I think one of the notes that we gave you is he's a tube of toothpaste who's full of himself.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Not a lot of introspection.
But I just saw the clip of, I think it was Eye for a Tooth, where Sydney is having trouble delivering the the paper to the right house because he has a bad eye. And he was telling Paste about what's he going to do. I can't do this, and what am I going to tell my dad? And, following in my dad's footsteps of being a great paper man, Yeah. And Bruce as Sidney is just going off, riffing all by himself. And Paste is like, well, okay.
Pace can't get a word in edgewise.
He just can't get a word in edgewise.
The music was so great. It was really such a pleasure. It's still listening to it, watching some of the YouTube videos. It was like, oh my God, it was just really, really wonderful music. So
uplifting.
Kudos to those music makers.
Yeah. What happened to them and what did they go on to, I wonder? Anybody know?
Well, Joyce Mbisi was our main music producer. And she passed away just recently from cancer. But she started this whole Cancer Fund thing. It's amazing. And the thing we loved about Joyce is that every song that, the writers, we would give her like an idea for here's what's going on in the story. And maybe here's a little rhyming couplet or something. And then she would deliver in like 2 days a full-blown song that was like knocked out of the park. I mean, it was perfect. And it was pretty ambitious for us to have 3 original songs in every episode. So it was a lot of work. So we actually had other people writing songs as well. But in fact, Phil and James and I wrote a couple songs together too.
Good day for the bee.
Yeah.
Because it's a good day.
Good day for the beach.
Good day for the beach.
I love that Itchy Polka Dot song too. Wasn't there a whole episode about somebody having itchy polka dots?
The brushing the stone.
Brushing the stone.
Anyway, to get back to Paste. So what I was saying.
A little late, Alan. Just a little.
Well, I was going to ask, where did you shoot? What lot did you shoot on?
Hollywood Center Studios, right in the heart of Hollywood there.
The Jeopardy lot.
Right next to the I Love Lucy stage.
I was sent this little clip to show, so we will let it play.
This is Jeopardy! With your host, Phil Barron.
Hi, and welcome to Jeopardy! We've got an exciting show for you today. 3 really terrific contestants, chosen from our thousands of applicants.
Let's meet them now.
What is Jeopardy?
Our first contestant.
Hi.
Hi.
Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Buzz Harnwell. I'm from Minneapolis, and I'm a computer processing student.
And Buzz, you know how to play our game, don't you?
Push the button, answer the questions with a question.
Very good. And our second contestant is from Buzzfield, Minnesota.
Yes, indeed, I am. I'm from Minnesota.
That's it. Because we're running out of time on our show. Excuse me. Our third contestant. That had to hurt a lot. We'll just move right on to the after these messages. Stay tuned for more of Jeopardy.
Jeopardy! Do 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 do.
We didn't have a lot of free time. That was the only break we ever had, I think.
Clearly, there is no craft service. Yeah.
No, and no cops. There should have been at least somebody stopping us, but nobody.
Oh my God!
That's so funny. Oh man, funny stuff.
Well, Greg, I would love to ask you, what's your favorite memory of working on this show? When someone says The Adventures of Timmy the Tooth, what do you think of?
I think I was one of the least experienced in a lot of ways coming on. So for me, it was a huge training time. It was really wonderful to study how people were doing what they were doing and then try and emulate it. I specifically remember watching Michael Earle's work a tremendous amount, especially with the radio controls. What I was going to say before is Randy Simper built phenomenal radio control units for the puppets, which not only worked really well, but were also really minimalist and very lightweight. So, a lot of the puppets didn't weigh a lot because Randy was smart about how he built them. So it was fascinating to watch how that world got put together. And then it was wonderful to get to step in and see how really good puppeteers actually do stuff. So I would study how Allan was, just how he would stand sometimes, or how he would figure out how he wanted to work Johnny Pace, because he was tricky. And it was a delightful time to get to really sort of soak that up and then try and emulate it later.
I do want to talk about the folks who aren't with us. And you mentioned Michael Earl and also Pat Brymer, who recently passed away as well. And I would just love to know some thought. I mean, definitely when talking about this show, Michael Earl's name comes up all the time for all the stuff he did. So I would love for anybody to talk about both Michael and Pat and their thoughts of working with them on this show.
I'll start because I couldn't speak in the last segment. I got too emotional. To me, just such a great talent. I'll talk about Michael. Such a great talent, such great skill, and like at ease. And that's what it was for me with Michael. And that's why I was so emotional talking about it earlier, because to lose that kind of talent is just like, oh, yeah.
He left us too early. Same with Pat too. And Pat Brymer was our wrangler who he was so thorough. And there was never a time where it's like, well, we have to wait for something to be rigged. It was already rigged. I mean, he was so awesome. And I remember how he had all of our rods were in like this calliope kind of thing. He had manufactured it out of cardboard tubes. And it was like so easy to get the right length rod for the right puppet, and batteries were always charged. I mean, the guy, he was just so, and quiet. He just kind of quiet, did his work, and I just loved him.
Well, and he did his homework. He went through the scripts. We had our production meetings, right? I don't know if it was at the end of the day for the episodes and the pieces that we were shooting the next day. So he was prepared on the day. He wasn't trying to figure stuff out as we were going. No, he was already ready. He had all the rods. He had this thing ready to rig on, the radio, or this for the banana. He was all ready to go.
Yeah, and he made you feel so good. You come to get your thing. It was great to go get your stuff, and he was there because he was this sweetheart, of a person. And that was great.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He was hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally subversive.
Yeah.
Really fun.
So funny. I loved being around him. I spent years with him on Happily Ever After. And it was like we were partners. I couldn't have done it without him. And it was just great working with him.
My gosh. Yeah, he was the professional I learned from, and he was the way he comported himself, and the way he was always prepared, and the way he always had something funny to say, because he looked at life as a playful thing. He worked his ass off, but at the same time he played just as hard, And him and his partner Jimmy are the sweetest people in the world, And I miss him.
And like Michael was so amazing to me. I mean, Rick and I and Michael worked on a show together, which is Michael and I, and we butted heads a few times with things. And I almost felt embarrassed to perform in front of Michael because he was so perfect. And he told me about how when he was a child, he'd come home from school and he'd watch Mr. Rogers. I mean, he was the pure essence of a puppeteer. He really had it all down. And everything he did, it was intentional, but it was just, like you said, at ease. It was graceful, and he was just really phenomenal to watch him, make these puppets come to life.
He was effortless. He was effortless. And when he did a character, it was like it was so rich and so good from the get-go. And I was so lucky that he was doing my eyes on Timmy, because there were moments where I didn't have to do anything because he was emoting, he was thinking, he was listening. There was all the stuff that you're trying to do as the the character. But he was doing it for me, and it was so great. And there was moments where he would lead me, and then I would lead him, and we were just in sync. And it was like he's 20, 30 feet away, and we were connected. It was so good.
Mm-hmm. I felt the same way about Christine doing my eyes for Bubbles. It was like a collaboration, and like that classic improv exercise where one person is doing the hands for the other person, and you don't know where one performer starts and the other one finishes.
And the best moments in
creating
puppeteering.
it together.
Yep.
Yeah.
I learned a lot from you, watching you just create this character, because she was so full and rich, and so many female characters. A lot of times they're not written as well as Bubbles was, but I also felt like you really were looking for, the deeper, the other dimensions of who the character was. So it was a real joy working closely with you, Cheryl.
Aww. Come here, everybody. Come on, come here.
I can say also about Michael Earl, because I worked with him on Sesame Street, and it was amazing to just see this kid, because we were both brand new on Sesame Street, and he was, I think I hadn't started puppeteering yet. I was in charge of the puppets and wrangling and the costumes, and I had come in he was playing, we did Gilbert and Sullivan. So he did one of them, Gilbert and Sullivan, and he was so into that character, and it was like he knew the entire repertoire of Gilbert and Sullivan, and it all came together in this little character. I think I have a picture of that one if you need. So there's a couple pictures of that, and then he was also the original Forgetful Jones.
I forgot that.
One of my favorite characters.
At his memorial, Christine was there. The amount of students that he taught in his second chapter, was and the fervor and the love that they had for him was it just was immense. I mean, what he gave to people of his art and how he empowered those people who came to say goodbye to him was overwhelming. I didn't realize how far-reaching his talents were. It was really something.
Yeah, he was one of the first people that I ran across who could actually teach puppetry. Back then, there was not a lot of people who could actually tell you how to make beats work, and how to really be specific to make your puppetry effective. And Michael was one of the few people who really worked that out early on. And there are exercises that he taught me, in 1994 that I still use when I'm teaching people now. And because it's sort of like, your real basics of the art form, that Michael was the first one to language in a way that you could really pass on to somebody else. And it made sense.
For me, Michael did something special. He would not only be in his character, but be in the monitor. And he was very aware of where the camera was on him. And he worked the camera.
Coffee.
I took classes from him as well, and it was just such a joy to watch him and then also learn from him, because he was so tall that there, because I'm not that tall. So there was certain kind of movements and things that he created that were just, I think that's partly why Flossie has that wonderful kind of flowy movement to her, is because of his reach and his ability to just kind of have her be. So, I mean, Paste kind of in a similar way, where Paste also has that kind of that largeness about him. It was great casting, I think, as well. So. Yeah, Michael was extraordinary. I was really honored to take classes from him, honestly, because I learned a lot from him.
Well, both Michael and Pat and many of you puppeteers had all these credits behind you, and Sesame Street was really impressive and things. We used all of you guys to get the. We're like, oh yeah, we have all these puppeteers that are done all these things. And that was another thing with Pat as well, as we dropped names like crazy to get that deal.
As we're wrapping up here, I would love to ask that, the Timmy the Tooth has such a great dedicated fan base. I mean, we're talking about the YouTube videos and people who are out there who are still fans. And now those fans are having kids, and they're going to get to show their kids Timmy the Tooth on Peacock. Why do you think this show is so special and that it has lasted? Because this is the 25th year, the 25th anniversary of this show.
For me, coming into the studio was like leaving the world and going into Flossmoor. and it was a place all by itself. And when you were in there, you were safe, and you could do things that you couldn't do outside. And you were there with a group of people who were family. And when we had downtime, we were talking about music before. When we had downtime, we had a song. It goes, "Lady with the flavin', lady with the flavin', lady with the flavin', and a Krellman and a Nork." It was the best family, and it was everybody was going the same direction, and it was just so much fun. And you know, we got some really special, really different, really good stuff. I love doing it.
I have something to say about it, and that is that Kevin and Dina and James are both silly and have heart, and that's what the show had. It could be really wildly crazy and funny, but it also, at the bottom of it, really came from here and really meant something. And I want to say something about those three. You know, it's really hard to get a show made. We've all had great creative ideas. There are thousands of great creative ideas out there. Getting something made is really hard. And getting something, like I've been on things that are mediocre also, that are also very hard to make. But to get something sold and to have it be really good is so rare. So kudos to you guys, really. And that's why it's still around.
I think that's why that was part of the attraction anyway to kids, is that it just had a very childlike attitude toward life and toward play acting. There was always a sense that they were really committed kind of actors in their own little troupe, and they would all act out little stories each week, you know. But it's the same type of thing that kids do all the time. It's like you don't have to explain anything. And Timmy doesn't have to go into a dream for them to explore a pyramid, you know. It's just there, and it makes sense in a very childlike way, and I think that's great.
Absolutely.
We all came from the background of family entertainment. I think my favorite memories is when my whole family was laughing at something on television, and whatever troubles we had in the family or personally melted away. And so when you guys had this family show, and it was my friends making a show, you were the first friends to rise up to the level of producers. And gosh, did we root for you. We would do anything for you guys because you made it. And now it was a chance for all of us to play. And you gave us a playground that was just full of love and just great characters. And we couldn't get enough of it. And we wanted more.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
That's it.
We're getting more. I loved how it bled into your own lives too. There was one time that I offered to babysit for Kevin's kids, and before you and Susan left the house, you were like, "Be sure to brush your Timmies." I'm like, "Okay, I'll remind them."
That's sweet.
You know, the other thing about the show that made it so wonderful, though, was that it was such a marvelously complete world artistically. You know, the whole look of not just the puppets, which were to me felt really new and exciting at the time, but the fact that the set reflected that so well too, with the sculpted foam pieces and the depth to it. And it was just like the overall scale of everything, it all matched. And the scale of the music was not simplistic. It was big enough to match the show. And I think, the colorful nature of it and the fact that it was just so completely done, it's really comforting to watch. And it's an exciting adventure to go play in Flossmoor Valley, like Rick said.
I think there's an underlying, always kind of the audience may always be searching for, so what's the dental message here we're supposed to be getting?
They're scratching their heads like, what?
Isn't it? Do we want to play this in the dentist's office? Is it an educational?
Right. That happened, though.
Maybe the last episode should reveal that this is all like the dream of some dentist somewhere.
Yeah. Or some kid waiting in a dentist's office.
Yeah. looking at a
Bill
poster
Murray. Bill
about
Murray
brushing
wakes
your
up and it's
Yeah. Don't worry. I'm not taking you to the dentist, darling. I'm taking you to Flossmoor Valley.
Too much laughing gas produce the whole thing.
Right. Yeah.
It was really great. It was probably I worked on an awful lot of projects over the years, and I think this is, if not my favorite, certainly one of the top 5, because it really was as Rick said, it's like every time you'd walk on set, it was just really joyful. It's not always like that. A lot of times people are vying for position, or this person doesn't like that person. And I never felt that on Timmy. There was always this sense of everybody coming together to make the best show possible. And I really think a lot of it really was the heart of Timmy. I'm going to cry now. It was really great. Really the heart
Let's
of Timmy,
do it again.
Yeah, the heart of Timmy really shone through.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, talk to someone else.
Well, I can't thank all of you enough for taking the time to do this. And I know the fans are going to be really happy to see this. And I'm super excited for new people, new fans to discover the show on Peacock. And just thank you all for being here. And thanks for being part of it.
Thank you, Grant.
Thanks for having us.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Great to see you all.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Brush your Timmys.
Love you.
Your Timmys. I love adventure.
Jiminy Biblets, that was fun. Well, thanks for tuning in to the Adventures of Timmy the Tooth reunion, and don't forget to check out the show on the new Peacock network. Well, talk to you later. Hello? Anybody there? Anyone? I love adventure. Nothing's better to me than a journey down to the ocean floor or a close encounter with a dinosaur. Oh, I love adventure. We'll slip and slide with a zippity-zoom and go loop-de-loop in the moon, sailing into the sun. Hope you wanna have fun. I love adventure.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back.